My brother stalked my wife for months, but when I found him in our bedroom at 3 a.m. with chloroform and a ring, the truth about my mother left everyone speechless. I'm 30 years old. I work as a software developer, and up until about 3 years ago, I thought I had a normal family. You know, with typical problems but nothing out of the ordinary. Turns out my younger brother was completely obsessed with my wife, and my mother was actively helping him stalk her. When I say obsessed, I don't mean he had a crush or flirted a little. No, I'm talking about criminal-level stalking, about breaking into our house in the middle of the night with a plan to kidnap her. But let me start from the beginning, because this story is so twisted, I need to tell it in order for it to make sense. I met Jessica when I was 29. She was 28. And honestly, it was like one of those cheesy stories I never thought would happen to me. She's a high school art teacher, and we met at a coffee shop where she was drawing in her sketchbook, like she had watercolors everywhere, and I spilled my coffee trying not to stare at her in an obvious way. We got married 9 months later. I know, sounds fast, but when you know she's the right person, you just know. You know what I mean? Jessica lost her parents when she was 20 in a car accident, so she didn't have family of her own. And when I told her about my family, she was excited to have people again. How ironic that turned out to be. The original plan was to stay in our city, but Jessica suggested moving closer to my family. She said she missed that feeling of having people around, of family dinners and those things. And I agreed because my family had always been close, or so I thought. I have an older sister, Amanda, who was 32 at the time and had always been the most sensible of all of us. And then there's Ryan, my younger brother, who was 28, who basically was the spoiled baby of the family his whole life. My dad died when I was 15. So my mom, Barbara, raised Ryan alone during his teenage years, and let's just say she completely spoiled him, like the kid never heard the word no and always got what he wanted. The first few months after the wedding were good. Jessica got along with everyone. My mom adored her, or at least that's how it seemed. Amanda and her became friends right away. Ryan also seemed to get along with her. He came to visit us a lot, maybe too much looking back, but I justified it thinking he just wanted to get to know his new sister-in-law better. He brought gifts all the time. Flowers, chocolates. Once he brought an expensive necklace that, according to him, he had seen in a store, and thought Jessica would look good in it. At the time, it seemed a bit weird, but Jessica said he was just being nice. That he probably felt bad for not helping much with the wedding because he'd been busy with his job or whatever Ryan was doing at that time. Honestly, he never kept a job for more than 6 months. The first real sign that something was wrong was at Ryan's birthday dinner. I think it was like 4 or 5 months after we got married. We were all at my mom's house, like a normal family dinner, and Ryan had been drinking a little. He wasn't drunk, but he'd had enough wine to be looser with his words. We were all sitting at the table when Ryan raised his glass and said something like, "Jessica is exactly the type of woman I always dreamed of marrying." Too bad, David got to her first. Everyone went silent. It was super awkward, and I tried to laugh like it was a joke, but Jessica went pale. My mom immediately changed the subject, and Amanda shot me a look like, "What the hell was that?" But Ryan kept eating like he hadn't said anything weird. That night in the car, Jessica was quiet, and when I asked her what was wrong, she told me Ryan had been making her feel uncomfortable lately. She told me he would stand too close to her when they talked, that he made comments about her appearance that were too personal. Things like, "I love that perfume," "You smell amazing," or "That dress fits you perfectly," "Shows your curves in a really nice way." She also told me that once he had tried to hold her hand, when she was in my mom's kitchen making coffee and he walked in, and when she pulled away, he acted like nothing had happened. I felt like shit because I should have noticed. I should have protected my wife. But I was so used to Ryan being the silly, annoying younger brother that I didn't see the signs of something much darker. The next day, I went to talk to Ryan. I found him at his apartment, which basically my mom paid for because he could barely hold down a job, and I told him straight up to stop acting weird with Jessica. He laughed. He literally laughed in my face and told me I was being paranoid and possessive. He said he was just being nice to his sister-in-law, that I was overreacting because I was a jealous and insecure husband. I tried to explain to him that it wasn't about jealousy but about respect and boundaries. But he kept acting like I was crazy. I left there feeling like the conversation hadn't accomplished anything, but I thought at least now he knew I was paying attention and maybe that would make him stop. But he didn't stop. The visits continued. The phone calls continued. The text messages to Jessica, asking how she was or if she needed anything, kept coming. Jessica started feeling anxious in her own home. She would always check out the window before going out like she expected to see Ryan outside. I talked to my mom thinking she could talk to him, but she basically told me the same thing as Ryan, that I was overreacting, that Ryan was just affectionate and sociable, that I should be happy my brother got along with my wife. Now, I know she was already on Ryan's side in ways I couldn't even imagine. Then I got a job offer in Kansas City, Missouri. It was an amazing position. Better salary, better benefits, but most importantly, it was hours away from my family. Jessica and I talked and decided it was the perfect excuse to get away. We didn't tell Ryan or my mom exactly where we were going. We just said we were moving for work and that we'd give them the new address when we were settled. Amanda knew the truth. She completely understood why we wanted space. We moved to Kansas City, found a nice house in a quiet neighborhood, and for like 3 weeks everything was perfect. Jessica started to relax. She got a job at a local high school teaching art. I started my new job, and we felt like we could finally breathe. Until one Saturday afternoon the doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, there was Ryan, standing on our porch with a bouquet of red roses in his hand, smiling like it was completely normal for him to show up at our new house uninvited. "How did you find us?" I asked him, and he said something vague about Mom having contacts and that it had been easy. Jessica was behind me, and when Ryan saw her, his face lit up in a way that gave me chills. I told him he had to leave, that he wasn't welcome without notice, and he got angry. He started yelling at me, saying I had lied to him, that I had hidden information from him, that he had a right to know where his brother lived. The neighbors started coming out to see what was happening, and finally Ryan left. But before leaving, he looked at Jessica and said, "See you soon," in a voice that sounded more like a threat than a goodbye. I called Amanda that night and she told me things that made me feel sick. Turns out Ryan had stolen our new address from Mom's phone, which Mom had gotten through I don't know what shady methods. Amanda also told me she had found photos of Jessica in Ryan's room, photos he had obviously taken without her knowing. Some were of her leaving the store, others of when she was in our previous yard. There were also voice recordings, like Jessica talking on the phone or laughing, things he had secretly recorded. Amanda was terrified and didn't know what to do. That's why she was telling me now. I went to the police, but they told me that unless Ryan did something directly threatening, they couldn't do much. That having photos wasn't technically illegal if he had taken them in public places. They suggested we get a restraining order, but we needed more evidence of threatening behavior. I installed security cameras all over the house, told Jessica not to go out alone if she could avoid it, and we basically lived in a constant state of paranoia, waiting for Ryan to make his next move. 2 weeks later, Jessica went to an art store to buy materials for her classes, and when she came out, she felt like someone was following her. She went into a cafe thinking she was being paranoid, but then she saw Ryan across the street, watching her through the glass. She called me terrified, and I ran out of work to go get her. By the time I got there, Ryan was already gone, but Jessica was shaking. She literally couldn't stop shaking. That night, we checked the security cameras and saw that Ryan had followed Jessica from the store to our house. He had been standing outside watching for almost 20 minutes before leaving. Jessica had a habit of going to a park near the house in the mornings to draw, like it was her peaceful moment before going to work. One morning, she came home running, out of breath, with tears running down her face. Ryan had been at the park, hidden behind some trees, watching her. When she saw him and started walking quickly to the car, he came out and tried to approach, but she ran. That was enough for the restraining order. Finally, the police took the situation seriously, and Ryan received an order to stay at least 500 feet away from Jessica. We thought that would stop him, that a legal order would make him see reason. We were wrong, so completely wrong. 3 days after receiving the restraining order, Ryan broke into our house in the middle of the night. I don't know how he did it. The doors were locked, the windows were locked, but he found a way. I woke up because I heard a strange noise, like someone breathing very close, and when I opened my eyes, it took me a second to process what I was seeing. Ryan was sitting in a chair next to Jessica's bed, leaning over her, holding her hand while she slept. I got up so fast I almost fell, and Ryan looked at me with this expression on his face I'll never forget. It was like calm and happy, like he was doing something completely normal and romantic. Jessica woke up with the movement, and when she saw Ryan, she screamed. A scream that probably woke up the whole neighborhood. I went at Ryan. Honestly, I don't remember the details well because I was running on pure instinct and adrenaline, but I threw him to the floor and held him there while Jessica called 911. That's when I saw the duffel bag Ryan had brought. The police checked it later and found duct tape, zip ties, a cloth with chloroform, and a wedding ring. A fucking wedding ring. Ryan had come with a plan, not just to scare Jessica or watch her sleep. He had come to take her. The cops told me later that we were probably going to come home from work the next day and find the house empty, with Jessica missing, if I hadn't woken up when I did. Ryan was arrested that night. Finally, after months of terror. They charged him with stalking, breaking and entering, attempted kidnapping, and violation of the restraining order. As they took him away in handcuffs, he looked at me and said, "This isn't over. She should have been mine from the beginning." Jessica was shaking in my arms, and I could only think about all the times I had downplayed the situation, all the times I thought maybe I was overreacting, all the times Ryan could have done something worse. The trial was a nightmare. Ryan pleaded guilty finally, probably because his lawyer told him he didn't have a chance with all the evidence against him, and he got 4 years in prison. 4 years sounds like a lot, but considering what he tried to do, it feels ridiculously short. The worst part was when they investigated further and discovered that my mom had been helping him the whole time. She had given him our address in Kansas City. She had been sending him information about Jessica's schedule. She had been giving him money so he could travel to stalk us. And it turns out this wasn't the first time. There were 2 other women Ryan had stalked before. Both had reported similar behaviors, and my mom had paid them not to press charges. My own mother, the woman who was supposed to protect me and my family, had been actively helping my brother terrorize my wife. When they asked her why she did it, she said Ryan was in love, that he deserved to be happy, that I had taken away the woman of his dreams, and she was just helping her youngest son get what he wanted. Like Jessica was a thing that could be won or stolen, like her feelings and her safety didn't matter at all. My mom got 3 years probation as an accomplice and had to do community service. Honestly, I think she should have gotten prison time too. We moved again, this time to a house across town. We didn't tell anyone except Amanda our address. Jessica cut her hair, dyed it a different color, basically changed her appearance because she was too afraid Ryan might send someone to look for her when he got out of prison. She goes to therapy twice a week. She still has nightmares where she wakes up thinking someone is in the room. I also go to therapy because it turns out having your brother try to kidnap your wife while your mother helps him leaves you with some issues to process. We cut contact with almost all the family, except Amanda, who testified against Ryan and Mom at trial and was basically disowned for doing the right thing. My mom has tried to call me a couple times from other people's phones because we have her blocked, leaving messages saying, "I'm a bad son," that I abandoned my family. That Ryan was just confused and I overreacted to everything. I've never returned the calls and I never will. Ryan gets out of prison next year and we're already making plans to move out of state. Maybe somewhere on the west coast, as far away as possible. Jessica says she wants to start over completely. New job, new city, new friends who don't know anything about this story. I just want her to feel safe again, to be able to go out to draw in a park without looking over her shoulder every 5 seconds, to be able to sleep through the night without waking up in a panic. Last week we were watching a movie in the living room, and Jessica asked me if I ever regretted marrying her, if I thought my life would have been easier without all this drama. I told her it was the dumbest question I'd ever heard, that none of this was her fault, that she didn't ask to be the object of my brother's sick obsession. I told her the only thing I regret is not realizing sooner what was happening, not protecting her better. She curled up against me and we stayed like that until the movie ended. And I thought that despite everything we went through, despite my family turning out to be a nightmare, I have the right person by my side, and that's the only thing that really matters.